remaining a loyalist. Likewise, I noticed in a footnote to one of my sources here that George Washington, in all of his writings, professes no special esteem for William Samuel Johnson, and vice versa. There is not a meed of praise, quote unquote, says the footnote, by William Samuel for our first president. So, you know, good story that we were all friends, but we weren't writing nice things about each other in our diaries.
Politics hasn't
Yeah,
changed much,
right.
right?
That's right. And in that Senate, well, actually, I could start at the beginning if she's on her way. Okay, then to start at the beginning, William Samuel Johnson, born 1727, of Reverend Samuel, my dad over there, and Charity Nickel, who is little known except that she came from a prominent family, a well-connected family in New York named the Floyds. She married a Nickel and was widowed early, then married Reverend Samuel. William Samuel, yours truly, educated very quickly. My dad took in boarders. He was kind of a professional educator in some respects, and he had me studying Latin by age 8. I was studying Greek by the age of 10. I was at Yale by the age of 13, and I was out of Yale at age 17 with a distinction. I then proceeded for 3 years to self-study, visited Boston, did some missionary work in Ripton, Connecticut, and at the end of those 3 years, I got a master's degree from Yale. I guess self-study was okay with Yale back then. They did correspondence stuff.
They trained pastors.
Yeah, and that trip to Boston, I picked up an honorary degree from Harvard.
Can you imagine Yale doing that today?
Yeah.
They wouldn't even let the name God be mentioned there. Anyways.
And speaking of honorary degrees, in addition to this one that I got from Harvard at age 20, later on in 1765, I got a master's from Oxford, and then they turned around the next year and gave me a doctorate. And that's how I came to be called Dr. Johnson for the last 40 years of my life. At age 20, had to make a career choice. I wanted to be a soldier. My dad wanted me to go into the church, and so we compromised on the law. Now the law, Dad liked that idea. He thought lawyers were limbs of divinity, quote unquote, limbs of divinity. But it was not well advanced here in Connecticut. Here is something that I wrote back in 1747. In our pleadings and arguments, our practicers are obliged to rely upon their own imagination and draw from their own stock, oftentimes a most miserable resource. Here, a teeming, fruitful imagination will make the best figure. So, there was not a lot of formal, well-developed law here in Connecticut. William Samuel Johnson came to be called the father of the Connecticut bar because he actually went to those classical sources of English law and studied them and mastered them and introduced them here in Connecticut. He rose quickly. I have 3 books, 3 biographies, and this one is by an Ebenezer Beardsley, written in 1876. And would you like to see a picture of William Samuel?
Of you? Sure.
Distinguished-looking gentleman, 1793. It's a time when he was the president of Columbia College.
That would be in New York?
Yes.
Columbia
That's
University?
where my father went to school.
Oh, okay.
Never knew he founded it.
And here's what Ebenezer says of William Samuel, just to give you an idea of why he was such a success, because you'll see this career was phenomenal. Mr. Johnson, gifted with every external grace of the orator, a voice of the finest and richest tones, a copious and flowing elocution, and a mind stored with elegant literature, appeared at the bar with a fascination of language and manner which those who heard him had never even conceived it possible to unite with the technical address of an advocate. So, I was quite a lawyer, and the competition wasn't very good. Put those things together, and I advanced quickly. It wasn't long before I was in the lower chamber of the legislature in Connecticut, then the upper chamber, then I was on the bench as a judge. I was a delegate to conventions. I was sent overseas to England to represent the state.
where you met Ben.
That's where I met Ben. That's right. I represented Connecticut in a case against the Mohegans. They thought they were entitled to some land that they had given us earlier, and there was a bit of a squabble about it. Also, I kept an eye on Parliament, and I wrote letters back to Governor Trumbull, keeping him apprised of the temper of the times in England. And I met many prominent English people, including the most famous Samuel Johnson of all, Dictionary Johnson, the lexicographer who put together the first English dictionary. Also the subject of the greatest of all biographies, Life of Johnson by James Boswell. And, well, I can't start in with Samuel Johnson. He's an whole other subject. And there's too many of them. It gets confusing. Anyway, hello, Ben.
Hi there.
I was just talking about England.
Ah, yes. What a fine time we had in England together in the coffee houses. Those were happy years, happier than after you betrayed your country during the Revolution.
I think you're overstating the case. I just laid low in the tall grass while you were consecrating your life, your family,
My sacred honor.
and your sacred honor to the cause of America. I was semi-retired.
I'm over there slaving away in Paris as the ambassador to the newly formed independent United States, having to play games of political intrigue while you play chess in Curtis's Tavern.
Well, that may be true, Ben, but you know, I was a uniter, not a divider.
So was Franklin, from what I heard.
And
Especially in Paris.
when 1775 rolled around, I came back to Stratford. I did not sign an oath of allegiance. I turned down election to the First Continental Congress. I had to relinquish my status as colonel of the militia, and I stayed out of sight. But the people came to me. They wanted me to go up to Boston after there had been bloodshed on a peacemaking mission to General Gage. I did it, and I was arrested. When they saw who I was, they let me go. But I had a rough time of it. There were a few rough moments there, with the result that I didn't do it again until I was really stuck in 1779. Then General Tryon, a Yale alum, had burned Fairfield, had sacked New Haven, and the people of Stratford were really concerned. They came to me and said, "You know General Tryon, would you talk to him on our behalf?" Well, that was ticklish for me. I'd already been arrested once for talking to a British general. And so I circulated a petition to find out whether the people of Stratford would indemnify me against whatever may happen if I did this, because it was a tough time to go against the people you were amongst also, you know. They took that burning of Fairfield pretty seriously, I'm afraid. The upshot was I got arrested again. I was under detention in Farmington for a little while. I was a hot potato there. They shipped me on to Governor Trumbull and the Sons of Liberty in Lebanon, I think. And in Lebanon, they held me for a few days while I signed the oath of allegiance, and then they sent me back to Stratford. And in Stratford, I sat out the end of the Revolution, and immediately rose back to prominence through my representation of Connecticut in the Susquehanna controversy. Now, in 1662, the charter Connecticut was given said that we had the land going out to the Pacific Ocean. We didn't say a peep about it for 100 years, but then Governor Trumbull and I think a few other people who might have had a financial interest, I'm just guessing, they got hot to trot on this settlement in the Wyoming Valley. And although I counseled against it...
Not in Wyoming, in Pennsylvania.
I know, but it was called the Wyoming Valley. I've tried to figure that out. Anyway, I was the principal spokesman for Connecticut, and everybody was very grateful to me, even though we lost. And my career sprang up pretty much full-fledged, except that maybe some of the people who had been really passionate about the war, not quite as friendly as they used to be. Ben, for example, he didn't forgive his son.
didn't forgive my son.
may not have
I didn't
fully
really
forgiven
forgive
me.
you, although we did have dinner together during the Constitutional Convention.
Yes.
When you were working on that compromise.
Right. And let's see, is that when you served me the oysters?
No, that was on a visit to
That-
Stratford.
oh, that was another one. The oysters were another occasion. We'll return to that. Well, I was saying, the Susquehanna controversy, we lost it, but next thing you know, I'm the delegate to the Articles of Confederation Congress, and from there to the Constitutional Convention. At the Constitutional Convention, I proposed the Connecticut Compromise, along with Roger Sherman and a couple of my buddies. And that's in all the history books. That was a major contribution to the Constitution. I also did a little brokering of North-South relations, bringing in Vermont as a counterweight to Kentucky, which wanted to come in, one being a slaveholder, one a non-slaveholder. By the way, I personally was a slaveholder, I have to admit. Then there was the matter of being on the Style Committee. When the document was finally drawn up and the content decided upon, I was the chairman of the Committee of Five that polished it up and put it in its final form. So again, I was considered a bit of a poet/wordsmith. Well, from there, I went on to become your first senator, and I was 63 years old, the oldest senator, and the senior senator from Connecticut. Let's see, that ran from 1789 to just 1791. I was also president of Columbia College. That offer had come along. I did both things simultaneously while the Senate was in New York. But when the Senate left for Philadelphia, I resigned. Just spent 2 years in the Senate. But the Judiciary Act of 1789 bears my stamp. I worked hard on that, pouring in my decades of experience in the law. After 1791, I was president of Columbia College, and in 1801, at quite an advanced age by then, I would say I was 74 years old, I married again. And once again, I was quite the romantic. I have a little diary, as a matter of fact, that I kept.
Those oysters, huh?
Maybe, that's right. The diary starts from a couple days before the marriage, and here is an ardent suitor for you. It says, on the 9th, executed contract of marriage to Mrs. Beach. 10th, set out with Mrs. B at 10 o'clock and lodged at Baldwin's at Newtown. More moderate weather. 11th, warmer and thawing. Came home at 3 and at 6 o'clock in the evening, married by the Reverend Baldwin to Mrs. Beach, unquote. And Mrs. Beach took very good care of me. It is said that she helped to prolong my life. I lasted until age 92 and died in 1819.
My goodness.
Which brings us to this mound right
And what did he do in the last 20 years? Do you know? Did he do anything?
Oh yeah. Well, he was an elder statesman in the area.
Yeah.
He read his books. He socialized. He was happy to see people. I think he just stayed by the fire.
Enjoyed
and
the retirement.
Met and greeted and enjoyed his books and
Well, thank you
all
so
the
much.
comforts.
Yeah, well,
Quite
thank you.
welcome.